Hi, everybody. This is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. And it is that time of the month where I have Alexander Mercouris from the Duran and Tom Luongo from Gold Goats and Guns.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Apollo have produced the ultimate hardware wallet for your cryptocurrency assets, probably the most secure hardware wallet going. Use my affiliate link and the code for a discount. Please follow me on Twitter and join my official Telegram announcements channel. Also, please follow me on bittube.video. You can also follow me on Odyssey. These are both censorship-resistant platforms, and every now and then I am going to post a video which isn't going to be on YouTube. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're only getting an extract. If you go to Odyssey or you go to 3Speak Online or bittube.tv or bittube.video, you will get to see the whole thing. If you're a regular subscriber to my YouTube channel, please come over and subscribe to me on one of those other channels, because YouTube is censoring my videos. It is shadow banning me. My views are down. If you're a subscriber, they may be unsubscribing you. So please do check that out, and please support censorship resistant platforms. They're going to do the smart analysis and commentary that they offer. Please go and join their channels and follow them. They are just remarkable, in my opinion. And I say it's my opinion, but actually I think it's the truth about them. And please do subscribe, comment, like, and all that business. So where do we want to start? Because as far as I can tell, there's nothing really going on in the world. Everything's quiet and normal and dull.
It really kind of is. What I suggested before we hit record is just to get started. We didn't have no shape to this, which is that I think it's really valuable that we're at a moment of kind of peak bullying by our powers that be. The people in governments are now. Joe Biden said it best a couple of months ago. He said, we've run out of patience. We've been patient, and now we've run out of patience, and now we're going to mandate that you do X, Y, and Z. Well, they're pushing, and they're doing the mandates. I just want to remind everybody, and I want to explore these avenues today, to remind everybody that when bullies get to the point where they're no longer willing to persuade you, or even, well, if you don't do this, then when we get to the point where it's, it would be a real shame if we had to break your legs in order to get you to do what we want to do, that we're closer to the end of this process than we are to the beginning of it. Yeah, and I think it's hard for us to see that, because we're in the middle of it. And it's very, very difficult. And I'm fighting constantly with commenters in my blog and even regulars who are they're so beaten down that, and with good reason. I take I don't take no umbrage with this. I get it. I just think it's really important. And so I want to explore what are those a number of those things that I'm seeing, that Alex is seeing, that we're getting to that point in time. I think that's the overall structure or the arc of our conversation today. So
I completely agree. Can I just, by the way, quickly take issue with the view that nothing very much is happening? I think an awful lot is happening. The problem is it's under the surface. It's not always necessarily visible. I mean, we've had that very interesting story, which I give credence to, that the Chinese tested a hypersonic glide vehicle. Now, I mean, that in itself is a big event, but it's not the earth-changing event. The fact that the Russians and the Chinese are now operating joint task forces and are sending a single fleet commanded by, well, we believe a Chinese admiral, but with a single structure through the Japanese home islands. They've just circumvented the Japanese home islands. Right. That is a big event. Yes. There's also a big event that NATO has this summit meeting in which they now said that NATO is now a global organization. It's going to confront threats everywhere, China as well as the United States in the same way. And at the same time as they do that, they've lowered the nuclear threshold in Europe. They've actually said that if there's a war in Europe, we'll go nuclear much sooner than we did. That, by the way, translates very much into the bullying points that Tom is making, because making a threat which you can't really, you're not going to act on because they don't really intend to act on it. That's bullying. That's a form of bullying. So, but these are the big geopolitical stories. Even more important are the domestic bullying stories, that at least they're important for us because we live in this part of the world. And what we're seeing, I think, increasingly is a situation where the wheels are coming off the thing. I mean, we were talking about a couple of months ago about how what Biden and the administration were going to do was going to result in massive worldwide inflation.
Right.
Sure enough, it's resulted in massive worldwide inflation. We spoke about how the response was going to be to tighten up controls in every conceivable way. Sure enough, we're seeing controls being tightened up in every conceivable way. We were saying that this would be extremely unpopular, and that in a few months' time, this is, we were talking straight after the inauguration, there would be a major swing against the popularity of the new administration. Well, surprise, surprise, its poll ratings are collapsing. The point to understand, though, is that the people who are doing these things, and, Biden himself is, in my opinion, an empty suit, actually. I mean, he's one of these people that there's strings are being pulled for him. He comes along, he gives these meandering comments on, so-called town halls and all that, embarrassing, cringe-making stuff. But, the people who are behind all of this, what do they do as their project starts to unravel? They intensify it. They do more of the same, and and of course we now have a phony whistleblower from Facebook, which is opening the door for more restrictions, more clampdowns, more of this. And at the end of the day, though, it's the bigger story. The key point to say is the one that Tom said: the fact that they're having to do all these clampdowns, they're imposing all these restrictions, they're scything through their own laws and their own constitutional structures to achieve them, is a sign that they sense that the control is slipping from their hands. They're closer to that point of total failure than they've ever been up to now.
Oh, absolutely. And it just seems very clear to me. And I find it really kind of frustrating that people interact with don't see this. I'm like they have constructed such a false reality of how the world operates in their head. They don't even understand. Like, one of the things we brought up in this last month's issue of the newsletter was this idea that if you listen to these people talk about the supply chain crisis, well, they talk about the supply chain like it's a monolithic singular organism that exists. So, like, guys, you personally have multiple supply chains within your own household, for supply chain, for food, for money, for energy, for this, for that. There's all of those things, and it's a web of supply chains that you're managing on a day-to-day basis, the inventories of stuff that you have to deal with. You imagine what that looks like at a small company level. Then you manage what that looks like at a large company level. Then you start to think about what it looks like at a government level, and you start to look at it with multiple companies. There are as many supply chains, if not orders of magnitude more supply chains, than there are actual people. And it's a big neural network and a big web. And this is something I've been trying to get across to people since the beginning of the pandemic, that you start to break that, and you start to break the entire structure of society itself, and you corrupt, and then you throw into that trillions and trillions of dollars of corrupt zero-cost money, and think that you're just going to print your way out of a supply chain mess, that you broke it, and it's impossible. And so, why I'm relatively optimistic, as far as I am right now as I can be, is because Jerome Powell is cutting back, is forcing interest rates around the world higher. He's forcing an end to this, because the narrative here in the United States is, why do we need $4 trillion worth of spending? The economy's fine. You people have created a false supply, the backup in the port of California. We don't need to do this. We can adapt to this. You've done this on purpose. So why don't you GTFO, man, and let us get back to business, because we can do that. And the Biden administration should be forcing the lifting of onerous state and federal regulations, as opposed to putting more of them on. And knowing this is where control over monetary policy here in the U.S. can literally break the entire big plan. And I hate to say it to my two esteemed European colleagues, y'all are in the crossfire. Y'all are in the sights now. And because you're the most vulnerable. When I look at the global capital table, I'm like, y'all are doomed. I would be more colorful but I'm trying to be respectful here. You guys know how how I roll. So y'all are doomed. Now you can see why it is that when I look at this landscape, I'm like, Powell, one, has the most powerful currency, two, has the best perception of the way the world actually works, and three, has the most power within his own organization. And because of that, I'm like, And then he has the most powerful people behind him saying, don't let these commies destroy what we have left. That's what I'm seeing in front of me. And I've been seeing since the day he told Christine Lagarde to go piss off. The Fed's not setting monetary policy for climate change. He did this back in May. And then everything else since then has been Davos twisting in the wind, desperate to try and get rid of this guy. Well, he just drains the world of dollars, knows that he doesn't need to, sterilized all the spending from this summer, and then he's going to end the tape, he's going to end the QE, start raising rates, and unleash the money that he sterilized. Okay? That's the plan, guys. I can see it as clear as day as long as he stays in power. And he's going to unleash a dollar bull market that is controlled over the course of the next 2 years. That is going to destroy Europe because he understands who the real problem is. It's not China. It's the European Union. He sees it. It's very clear. Go ahead.
That's good, because I was going to move you on to how do you see this rolling out?
I agree. I would say this, in my opinion, the two most dangerous regions in the world are Ukraine, obviously, because the reason, the scenario that Tom outlined is an extremely, I think it's a highly likely one. Highly likely, and the other one is Taiwan, where the situation is very precarious, and I don't think people have really woken up to how potentially dangerous it really is. But there are some people who clearly do want some kind of a showdown with Taiwan between China and the United States, and it's quite likely that there are some people in Europe who would welcome it for all kinds of reasons. But it would be a very dangerous one.
And that narrative is now being broken down, and I think that's the meta narrative that's happening here that so many people aren't getting, and they're just caught up in the individual movements and moments, and they're not seeing the bigger cultural picture. Again, I'm happy to be wrong about this, or not happy to be wrong.
So why they're not seeing it is because what people aren't doing is subscribing to your channel and the same with you, because this conversation is missing this level of analysis. Digging into this and digging into this, and looking at the whole overview and how they all play together. This is missing from the mainstream media.